it's on this idea we have a lot of really top intellectuals out there that in this space, in this podcast space, in this IDW space, that they get asked, or a lot of interest seems to be around them answering questions that the listener already knows the answer to, or wants to hear them repeat that answer back to them. Questions like, what is a woman, for example? you know I don't think anyone tuning into Jordan Peterson answer the question, what is a woman, has a different opinion anyway. They're just having their opinion
Yep.
reaffirmed back to them. So my question is, do you think that in a way we waste a lot of time and resources on these intellectuals by having them answer these questions rather than focusing on more important issues?
Yeah. Clearly, there is I mean, I think this is analogous to what happens to a great band,
Hmm.
right? A great band does a concert and everybody wants to hear the greatest hits. And that's not really what you should want, right?
Hmm.
It's cool to hear the greatest hits. It would be cool if the greatest hits were allowed to change, right? In other words, the natural relationship of a human being to music is not one of songs that are static. Even songs that your tribe played at every campfire would change at every campfire, right? It's only at the invention of the player piano and then recorded music that you get to hear the same song exactly the same way twice. But the point is, a band is now trapped. They go to the concert and the audience wants to hear the album version, which frankly may never have been played, right? It's a compilation of different elements from different takes. And so the band becomes trapped by whatever was presented to the public. And intellectuals are this way too, right? There's something, some particular riff that people like hearing, and they know that if they ask the question, this person is going to deliver a version of that riff, and man, it feels good. Um, the problem, though, I think, is that we are trapped by our developmental experience as consumers, right? That's not our fundamental nature as human beings, right? You could make an argument for consuming natural resources, but we're not fundamentally consumers in the way that we mean that in economic terms, but we have become that. And so if I pay, I don't know what concert tickets cost these days, but if I pay, I don't know, $100 to go see Radiohead, right? Do I want to hear something that's going to give me the dopamine rush of the absolutely transcendent songs that are going to have the entire audience singing along? Or do I want to hear Radiohead playing with new ideas where I might get a glimmer of the thing that's going to become the next transcendent song that the audience all knows? Well, there's an awful lot of waiting around and, you know, mucking about on the way to the transcendent thing that then is going to end up being important. And so, from the point of view of a consumer, maybe it doesn't feel like a good deal. You want to pay $100 for what amounts to a minute and a half of important new music, or do you want 2 hours of stuff that makes you feel good, right? So it's the wrong choice, but in part because we have this ROI calculation running through our minds that doesn't belong there. That's not what you want, right? And in some ways, um, my podcast, your podcasts are really evidence that the other thing still exists, right? Why do people like Joe Rogan? Well, I can tell you, as a many time guest on Joe Rogan's program, you can't decide what you and Joe are going to talk about.
Hmm.
Can't be done, right? Joe goes where he's going, and if you're capable of volleying, then it's cool. And if you're not, then maybe you don't get to come back. But the point is that is born of an impulse where it's like, instead of I paid $100, I want to hear the hits, right? It's um, I actually want to hear what happens emergently when these two people that I respect have a conversation where even they don't know where it's going to go, right? So that I think that is the good impulse struggling to emerge, and the fact that podcast world has become an important political force is evidence. Um, it's evidence of something good. Uh, Much like the success, you're not old enough to remember the mind-numbing world of well, it was different in Britain than the US, but in the US we had, three major broadcast networks. You could tune into them, or you could tune into reruns on one of seven other channels. But the stuff on the major networks was like three camera sitcoms, right? A three camera sitcom is a totally formulaic presentation of something you don't even know if it's actually funny, because they put laugh track on it, and so you laugh along with an audience that doesn't exist, right? That was bad, right? But the thing that they told themselves when they made this stuff was that the audience couldn't handle anything more nuanced. Wrong. HBO proves that's not true, right? The idea that we have these sprawling narratives that function like novels or series of novels, where it's like, one chapter after another, right? And that people are following these incredibly elaborate stories. The audience was capable of doing it. It was the studios that weren't capable of detecting that or producing the things. So anyway, I think we're there too, right? Yes, there is an impulse. Can you tell me the thing that I know you're going to say that I love it when you do, right? Or challenge me, say something that I've never heard that I'm initially going to disagree with, and then I'm going to spend time thinking about it and figure out whether or not you might be right. Right? That's much more powerful. And last thing I will say, same topic. I believe we have a very broken relationship, at least in the U.S., but probably across the West, where we ask candidates for office about policies that they're going to enact, right? And it's like a reflex where we want them to tell us, I'm going to do this thing that you want. And so they promise us stuff. It doesn't work. They don't have the power to enact it when they get in office, or they never meant it in the first place. And we would be much better off, counterintuitive as this sounds, if we assessed their character and their patriotism instead of their policy proposals, right? My feeling is I actually don't care what you think of policy. If you impress me that you're a patriot, that you love the country that I'm a part of, that you want to see it improved, and that your values align with mine, so that improved to you also means improved to me, then all I want to know is that you're good at evaluating what policy might get us there. If you've got a policy that I think I don't want, but it actually makes the country match the values that I hold better than it does currently, I'm on board. So anyway, that's my plea for us to stop trying to pressure people to promise us policy changes when they get in office, and have them tell us who they really are and what they really want, and that's what we should be voting